style. Go check my profile, my lifestyle is so vile. Gal on my mobile, gal from worldwide.
Yo people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sammy and it's been a while. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Life gets busy. But in this video I'm just going to talk about literature reviews and how I went about it, and I feel like I'm in a position where I should talk about it because I was able to get it first and I was able to do it within a short time frame. So I thought I would just, give my tips and tricks, and hopefully it can help you achieve a similar grade. Alright, so if you're on this video, then you probably already know roughly on why you need to do literature review and etc. But let me just quickly go through it. So the reasons why you want to do a literature review is because you just want to ask yourself why you're doing it. You want to check if anyone else has done anything similar. You want to see if your research is relevant to your field, your research field. So you want to make sure they correlate and it's relevant. And you also want to know what's already understood in the topic. You don't want to be doing an experiment or whatever on something that's already been tested and is already been researched, because then that would be pointless. So the main aspects of a literature review is to actually find gaps in a literature and to pick a relevant question to ensure you're actually testing something new and you're adding to the research at hand. Okay, so now that is why we need to do a literature review. Now let's get started into the steps that you need to take to actually start this review. So firstly, you want to use Google Scholar or a university catalogue service of your choice to find relevant papers. The way you do this is you'll just type in keywords into Google Scholar and you will find the relevant papers there. There is a guide on how to use Google Scholar, which I will make a video on to help some of you. There's a few abbreviations that you can do with your keyboard and they're really helpful. Then once you find these papers, it's important to look at the references that they use and actually delve deeper into the other related research, as you want a holistic view of the topic at hand. Now once you've read through some of the papers and you've decided on the research project, it's now time to consider what subtopics you're going to talk about. This is where you break down your question and display the different aspects of it using the papers you are reviewing. It's also key to remember to think about what you're going to talk about in your intro and your conclusion. In my intro, what I mainly talked about was how my question relates back to today's climate and just some key definitions of terms in my question and just an overview of what I was going to talk about. And in my conclusion, I was talking about my motivation behind the research question and if there were any gaps in the literature. So these are all questions that you need to ask yourself before even starting your literature review. Now I want to talk about how I actually was able to get a good grade in my literature review regardless of the short amount of time I had. And this tutorial is specifically for people who did a more empirical based dissertation. And with my university, the way my dissertation worked is that my literature review was half the paper and the second half was the actual empirical experimenting. So in this first 4,000 words, all I had to do was essentially do a literature review. But because it was 4,000 words, there was a lot to write about and they did expect a lot from us. So let me show you on my computer exactly what I did. Okay guys, so as you can see, I'm in the plan of my dissertation here. As you see at the top, I've written my research question down. So my question was, equity markets comparison of Eurozone versus UK, has financial integration in the single market helped the United Kingdom's economic growth? So there was actually two aspects of my question. Firstly, I wanted to compare the equity markets between the two regions, and also I wanted to show if there was any correlation, whether this correlation would lead to economic growth on one of the variables. So this was important for me to consider these different aspects into my literature review and to see whether other researchers have done anything similar. What I did come across was there were some people who did a lot of obviously stock market comparisons, but none of them really did it with the UK and the EU. It was more like EU versus rest of the world, or developing countries versus the rest of the world, or developing countries versus the Western countries, for example. So there was a lot of research in that element, but there wasn't this specific question, if that makes sense. And there wasn't also a lot to link stock market integration with economic growth as such. So that was another gap that I was looking at. So as you can see here, I put my intro down, and these numbers by the side of each of my headings and intro and conclusion and stuff is just to show me how many words I can have per section. So I decided I wanted 700 words for the intro, 2,500 for the main bit, and then 800 for the conclusion. So all I did in the intro was essentially list down the things I wanted to talk about. There's nothing special there. With the subheadings, all I wanted to talk about was these 4 aspects here. So what is integrated markets, what is the features of integrated markets, measuring integrated markets, and policies that enhance the markets. So as mine was an empirical dissertation, it was important for me to have a section on other empirical analysis. So the measuring section, which was the highest proportion of my word count, this was an important section for me because this was the section that I was talking about all the other empirical methods used by other researchers. So as you can see, that's all I did, and I actually color coordinated it. So what I did was made one of the topics red, the other topic blue, green, purple, and so on. And then for my conclusion, as I said earlier, talked about the motivation for the research question, the gap in the literature, and just like an overview of what was said. Now I want to show you what I did for the lit summaries. So once you've actually read your papers, you want to start to summarize what you've learned. The best way I had was to essentially, first what I did was write down the paper's reference. So all I had to do was copy and paste it at the end, and then under that what I would do is I would find the section I want to talk about, link it to whichever heading there was. So for example, this first one, what is integrated equity markets, and then I would use this, and then I would look at the paper at hand and I would summarize what they said equity markets was and highlight in red. And the way I would actually analyze it or critically review it was I would actually write straight on the plan as it is, as you can see, and then at the end all I would have to do is copy and paste it. So I'll show you what I did. So as you can see, this is a red section and this is green, what not to coordinate with this section. What I would do is say I'd get a red section here and say another red section here, and then this one for example, and basically I would open a new document for when I was going to actually start my actual dissertation, and I would actually just put them together like a puzzle, just collate them together, and then you just obviously add certain words to correlate them together, and to obviously you need to critically review it, so you need to show why they link and whatnot. But that's essentially all I did, and after reading through all the papers, as you can see here, I read through quite a lot. Once you do that, you just stick them together. It literally takes no more than a day to put them together once you've written it like this. This is the hardest bit, obviously, to read through the papers and then summarize it and then relate it back to your actual question and your subheadings and whatnot. So that's my tip for today, guys. I hope it helped. The main thing was the color coordinating and how to break down your summaries. That was pretty much my main tip, and this is really what helped me write it out in basically a week. So that's all you got to do, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If If you did like it, please leave a like and a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to, leave it down below. Follow me on my Instagram. Links will be in the description. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.